Let us say namaste and dhanyavad to one more person who is the G20 Sherpa, who shouldered, shepherded the big New Delhi declaration. Amitabh Kant ji, namaste, dhanyavad and congratulations. Is it now sinking in that you've achieved what was seemingly looking like impossible even on the night before the day of the summit?
Well, it was difficult. It was very, very tricky. But I think as a team, we've managed it, and it's been largely possible because of India's great stature today, and because of the Prime Minister's own, his credibility in a democracy being very high. And I think I work as the Sherpa to the Prime Minister. So because his stature was high, I could take many risks. I could bulldoze a little bit, and I could get everybody together. The emerging markets got together, and we had good negotiators. And I think we really pushed hard because Brazil, Indonesia, South Africa, and India, all of us, when we get together, we bring a lot of power. And then I realized that as we went along, Saudi, Turkey, Argentina, Mexico all joined us to say that we will not allow G20 to be wrecked. It will not be a divided house. It will be a voice of consensus. And that brought everybody together. We had many challenges while we were negotiating. And in the final stages, I think it went up about minimum 15 times, up and down, up and down, up and down. But I think we were just fortunate to have clinched it. So I think it was, to my mind, I give a lot of credit to this because of the elevated stature of India, and also because I was working as really the Sherpa of the Prime Minister. His personal credibility was very high, and I could pull it off.
Amitabh ji, Dr. Shashi Tharoor has been quite lavish in his praise for you on Twitter. He said the Foreign Service's loss is the IS's gain, and that he hinted that even the night before it was not ready, but it eventually was. Is that true, if I may ask?
Yeah, that's true. Actually, we got into the final round of negotiation at about 11:30. Next day morning was the leaders' conference. And there was just no time, but we took it to brinkmanship. But important thing is that it's not about IAS or Foreign Service. We are all working for the country, and we are all working essentially to ensure that India wins. And I had a team of very good officers. Yes. I had Nagaraj Naidu, I had Enam who worked with me, and they were all. Nagaraj is a top class. His drafting ability is world class. Enam's ability in terms of sheer enthusiasm and positivity is top class. And then I had sitting right and left to me the Brazilian Sherpa, who's a renowned diplomat, and I had Zain, who's the South African Sherpa. His skills on international law are truly outstanding. So all of us, and then I brought in Jani, who's the Indonesian Sherpa. All of us work together as a team. And eventually, it's not just the Prime Minister. It's not just the Indian Prime Minister, but it's all four Prime Ministers, their stature counted. So Prime Minister led from the front, and then we had the courage to say that this G20 must be a G20 of consensus. That's what the Prime Minister had told us. And therefore, we made it a full G20 of consensus. It's also a big win for multilateralism. It's a big win for the developing countries. This is a document that has been produced as a voice of the global South and the developing countries. It's loud and clear on that count. And it's really a voice for growth and progress. And it's a call for peace in many ways.
The Sabka Saath was supposed to be a mantra for the people of Bharat. It now seems to have become a Vishwa mantra.
Yeah, so India has truly acted, as the Prime Minister said, as the Vishwa Mitra in this, by bringing everybody together. I don't think there's any other country in the world today other than India where its leader is able to bring, the Prime Minister is able to bring the emerging markets. The Prime Minister is able to bring the developed countries. the Prime Minister is able to bring Russia and China all together on the same table and arrive at a consensus. I don't think, even not merely climate, not merely energy, but also on critical issues of Russia, Ukraine, we've managed to bring everybody together.
Those contentious passages, those paragraphs, how did that come to be? Because you've called it a Ukraine war, contrary to what positions maintained by Russia and China. But you've underlined the nation's positions and deterred from naming Russia and China explicitly.
So let me first say that there were a lot of contentious issues on climate and energy which went on till the end. And, those are very, very important issues. And the leaders have actually come out with a Green Development Pact. And it's a very powerful pact because not only does it have action in terms of tripling renewable energy, on cutting down on fossil subsidies, but it has a very big ambition on life, the lifestyle for environment. And because that was important for us to push through, and then it has Global Biofuel Alliance, many other components, ending plastics, and so on. Actually, one of the key highlights of the leaders' document is the Green Development Pact, which very few people are talking about, but it's a very important component. Then energy, and later, towards the end, it was last 5 days, we had locked ourselves about 50 kilometers away from Delhi. It was very important that whatever we do does not get leaked out to the media and the press, because we were coming out with different versions of the geopolitical draft.
Yes.
It was the key to that was to keep everybody locked up and ensure that nothing comes out in the media. And because any leakage of information would have wrecked the whole effort.
Correct.
So we didn't allow the draft to go out. And in fact, all Sherpas who used to come into the negotiating room had to keep their mobiles out. Nobody could get in with a mobile. No pictures were allowed. And that's how we started the drafting session. So India spelled out the principles on which others added, and then we went along and we brought consensus through different drafts. There were several versions of it, several rounds of non-stop negotiations, but at the end of it, let me tell you, that's a long story of falling apart, coming down. But the end of it, let me tell you, the clinching fact was that it was the stature of the Prime Minister. It was his elevated position where we took the risk, because what I am is really the Sherpa to the Prime Minister.
Yes.
And I had to take certain risks because I knew that he has a big stature. His personality in the international arena is strong, and I could take this level of risk, and I could push through, and I could, with vigor and energy, and my body language and all, was confident because of my leader. And that enabled, I think in the end, it was just my ability to reflect the stature of my Prime Minister which enabled it.
No, and it's been done phenomenally, because I've read through the entire 80-odd paragraphs, and each and every domain, there seems to be significant progress compared to Bali, Amitabh ji. And in one interesting part is the economic corridor. Italy now has hinted to China that they're trying to pull out of Belt and Road, and because they're part of this economic corridor. That's a big strategic win, sir.
Yeah. So, Anand, what India has done is a win for multilateralism. It's a win for developing countries. It's a win for emerging markets. It's a win for the global south. And it's a win for consensus politics. And it's a win for peace. It's a clarion call for peace in the world today. And what the document really states very clearly is that growth and development have to be paramount for emerging markets. And this is really the key to this document.
But let me ask you, sir, in terms of taking the document aspect forward, you highlighted 5 bullet points which are the salient features of the New Delhi Declaration. Points number 4 and 5 were about reinvigorating multilateralism and multilateral institutions for the 21st century. And the Prime Minister has backed it with a clear message about wanting to revamp the UNSC.
Well, we've had a whole para, and it took a long time to draft it out, but we've had a full para on reforms in the United Nations. And then, of course, we've talked about bigger, the better, bigger, and more effective multilateral multilateral financial institutions, which was very important for us. And from an emerging market viewpoint, we fought everyone. We fought the G7, we fought everyone together to get that terminology right and to enhance lending capacity. So I think both the UN reforms figure, the multilateral financial institutions figure, and I think the world has sent out, the G20 has demonstrated that it has a much more stronger voice on issues of geopolitics, on issues of development, on the issues of growth than the United Nations Security Council. India has demonstrated that.
To get crypto, financial terrorism, and money laundering, get those paragraphs in. How tough or easy was that, or would you see that as a big achievement?
Yeah, that was tough because at the terrorism discussion, because we were bringing in issues of ensuring that there are no safe havens, etc. There should be. We wanted a very, very strong para on terrorism.
Yes,
that took a lot of effort. It took a lot of effort because G20 has many countries. It's important that we bring everybody along, and everyone has a veto power. So to get everybody together and say that we are all against terrorism, we are not going to give a safe haven to terrorists, was a very important point. It's all criminal and unjustifiable. That was very, very important in what the message that we were sending out. It's a very strong para if you read it.
But how was it? Was it easy or difficult to bring China on board? Because sociologist Salvatore Babones, after reading the paragraphs on terror, says China has literally thrown Pakistan under the bus here. Would you want to concur?
So let me on this say that that China is a multilateral player, and we had several challenges from China on many issues. On this multilateral negotiation on life, women-led development, Vasudev Kutumbakam. But towards the end, our negotiating team, all of us, had built up very good relationship with the Chinese Sherpa team. And it was a one-to-one personal relationship which enabled us to convince them that this is the time for emerging markets and for developing countries to get together. If we do not support Indonesia, which we did last year, if you do not support us now, and if we together do not support Brazil next year and South Africa later, we'll be wrecking G20. G20 is very distinct from G7. The voice of developing countries must be heard, and that China realized. And China then realized that it must remove all the brackets on all this because it must help the developing countries. And that's where we succeeded. So it was more on a personal level.
How many of them are ready to play a round of 9 holes or 18 holes with you now, sir?
Well, I think I'll go and play 18 holes now. I'll be quite relaxed. I want a good sleep and then go and play 18 holes. But it's been tough. It's been tough. It's been this thing. But we always get inspired by Prime Minister's own tremendous energy and his dynamism, and therefore it's inspiring in many ways. And he leaves a huge task for us to build a G20 of consensus. He told us that it has to be very action oriented. He told us that it will have to be decisive and ambitious and inclusive. We've tried to deliver on all his vision. Really, it was he's really the leader of G20 during India's presidency. We are all acting as his Sherpa. So that was the vision we are trying to fulfill. And now we'll have to get into a virtual G20 for November. So we'll have to start work all over again. He's given us tough tasks again.
Well, tell us, that was my final question. How easy or difficult was it to bring the Africa Union on board, get everybody in the course of just 1 year? Because this discussion was at the end of Bali. That was what was revealed and the promise was revealed. So that's the final question, sir. Taking it forward into the virtual session at G20, what's on agenda? Ji.
So I think the African Union made a lot of, it's a historic win for everyone, particularly for the global South and for India. But the Prime Minister's letter to leaders of all G20 countries made a huge difference. And I think we got a lot of overwhelming support because of Prime Minister clearly stating that this is a must during our presidency, and it got overwhelming support. Once it had got support, we argued it out at the Sherpa level. Our job was then to bring consensus. There were some challenges, but I think we've been able to manage other countries. We've got full support from everyone. I must say that all countries supported us on making AU a permanent member. Overwhelming support from every single country, every single region.
न्यू दिल्ली डिक्लेरेशन हो गया, तो नवंबर का ब्रीफ क्या है सर?
नवंबर का ब्रीफ ये है कि साहब अभी अब काम शुरू कीजिए इसको डिलीवर करने के लिए। जो अभी हम लोगों ने डिक्लेरेशन बनाया है, इसको ग्रास रूट पर इम्प्लीमेंट करिए। तो अगले 3 महीने तो हमको इम्प्लीमेंट करवाना पड़ेगा, और फिर वो उसका क्या आउटकम हुआ है तो वो उस आउटकम के बारे में बताना पड़ेगा। तो अभी तो सांस लेने का समय नहीं मिलेगा, अब तो और मुश्किल में फंस गए।
Well, that's how Prime Minister is, isn't it? You don't rest. You've finished one, you move on to the next milestone. Congratulations, Amitabh Kant ji. Congratulations to you and to the entire team. Great work done, and I think phenomenal outcomes. 112 plus outcomes, which is again a record that you've tweeted and we've spoken about too. Thank you very much, and congratulations once again.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Namaste.